What a lovely
Welcome
day!
to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Giuseppe Montesano, Twine to Triangle, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Losing Your Religion, J Mel's 24, Unimento, M, Iron 26, Endless Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Can I Bear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Airy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Oh. So Mighty was right.
Pardon?
Mighty was wondering if it was computer issues, so he called it right.
Okay, you're mumbling.
Okay. I said Mighty called it. He said computer issues again, and I was like, well, I don't know about that, and seems like that is the case. So he was right, is what I said.
I'm always right, bro.
Great, I'm getting the Adam critique that QV gives him. You're mumbling, Adam.
Right, well, hopefully you guys can chat amongst yourselves. I hold out very little hope
Right.
that this show will actually be successful today, but there we go. I was testing when my wife said, "Are you going to have a live show today?" I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." She's like, "Do you know what time it is?" I was like, "No." I looked at the clock. I was like, "Oh my god, still in the middle of testing stuff, still all going wrong constantly." Oh well.
Jeez, Nathan, you put a lot of labor in, man. You're dedicated.
Yeah, man. My youngest is at nursery today, so it's the easiest day to actually sit during the day and do stressful things in the BIOS. So I've been doing it since as soon as I got it, pretty much. And I was doing it since the show finished yesterday.
That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, it is. I'm just not getting anything else done. So I've got 2 videos sat in iMovie, ready to be edited. One has been half edited, the other's not even been started, and I'm just not doing them. The morning is normally spent doing that.
But now you got to do this.
If I want to have a show, I do, yeah.
You got to get yourself in a better situation, though. Need a new computer.
Said already, Neil. While it's in warranty, I will try my best to get it to work. And if I do, at the end of the 12 months, get it to be consistently stable, then that's it. Great. I can just ignore it. If I don't, then I'm going to have to start upgrading parts in it for more efficient parts. So just by chance, at the point that this PC was built, they had a big changeover in all the electronics, and the CPUs were a lot less efficient at pulling a lot more power, and the graphics card, they always pull a lot of power. So the newer range has got more efficient graphics cards that perform about the same. Now, obviously, you'd want it to be improved as you're improving it, but on the other hand, you do just want stability. So if it comes to it, I'll do a GoFundMe for £1,000, exactly the same as I did for the other PC when it had the exact same problem when it was replaced with this one, which is to say, I'll keep all of the power supply, keep all of the RAM and the motherboard, and just change the CPU and the GPU. That's what I'll do, and it'll seem like an upgrade, but it'll actually hopefully be a pain relieving exercise. But hopefully, I won't need to do that. You know, I've got 101 other things that I'd rather spend money on than a PC that I've already got. Yes, it's taking lots and lots and lots and lots of effort to make it work, but I'll get there. I'm sure I will. And if I don't, like I say, I will have no choice but to just run a GoFundMe for £1,000 and swap the CPU and GPU. Even then, Neil, I wouldn't want to do that now. I'd want to do that on the next round of whatever components come out when they're newer. So this range of stuff, when it's been more refined, which it has been once, I want it to be refined again before I'd buy anything to replace it with. Anyway. In the meantime, all things are nominal.
What does nominal
Yeah, I
mean
feel for
again?
you.
Hearing in name only.
Oh. What does that mean?
I have no idea. What I take it to
Good morning.
is my iGPU encoder, 46%. Very healthy. RAM temperature, 62 degrees. Reasonable. CPU temperature, 77 degrees. Hot, but not ludicrous. GPU, 53. Happy, happy, happy computer.
You sound like a
I've got a
weatherman.
new problem. I think I've been chasing my tail for the last couple of days because the router's overheating. That's what I think's actually happening now. So I've got a new problem, I think, because today it happened to fall over at a particular moment. So I start resetting the computer and trying to change voltage settings. And my wife says, "Oh, the Wi-Fi's gone down." I'm like, "Oh, maybe I've been chasing my tail because what's actually happening is the router's now overheating. The computer's now stable, and I'm just turning it down needlessly." And it's actually the bloody router that's causing it to stop streaming. Because the computer's not crashing, it's just stopping streaming. That could be a router problem.
Good morning, Nathan.
Hello. Oh, this is the pre-show, eh?
I've got your video today as offered up by QE to me to make this a video you do today. Gas pressure next to a vacuum by Mortimer.
Who the hell's Mortimer?
You've done him before, so I'll save it for the live show, but if you want to cue it up,
Yeah,
this
I
should
will
be
do.
very interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have a look. Gas pressure next to a vacuum.
What vacuums?
By Mortimer 81. 40,000 subs. So it's similar size to us. Bit bigger.
Yeah, remember you did him before?
No.
QE, he said he had a 7-part series and you were doing a few of them, I think, a while back.
Oh, yes,
Nathan
I do.
don't
As
remember
soon as he
from
popped up.
yesterday.
Yeah, I do remember this guy. I
I'm,
don't know if
I'm
that's good or
telling you,
bad.
I watched this. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't know if that's good or bad. Often when you remember somebody, I can't remember if it was Ian Hislop on a show we have here in the UK called Have I Got News For You, and he was talking about private schools and how they are. And I went to a private school, but just nowhere near as posh as he did. But he was saying that in his school, the kid that was often very troublesome would get mentioned a lot in the staff room. And then when it came to giving somebody something to do, quite often the teachers wouldn't remember anybody else's name, so they'd pick that kid, the one that got mentioned more often in the school classroom by all the drunk on brandy teachers and head teachers and so on. So it's just familiarity with somebody's face or name isn't necessarily a good thing. But oh yeah, I remember you. How's it going? In other words, if I bumped into this guy on the street, instinct would tell me, because I'm a generally quite positive person, as much as that might not come across on the show, I'd be like, how's it going? How's it going? You know what I mean? In other words, bro, you're familiar to me. That must be a good thing.
Let me tell you something. I watched this, and we have one disturbed individual. We are living rent-free in this guy's head, or flat Earth, the whole flat Earth thing is.
Really?
The way he ends it is so amazing. It just, he slips up, I think. He just lets you see the anger. The frustration.
Did you say we're living rent-free in this guy's head? Who are we to with this guy? I mean, I appreciate if we've done a response video.
No, our arguments, our whole position is bothering him so much. Hold on. The way he ends his video is very telling. He says so many dumb things throughout that you're going to have fun with. I just posted the video, the black and white of the college professor talking about entropy. I think you ought to play that now and have it on cue for the live show. It's only 1:40.
It's not even an argument, though, is it, Tim? You know, when you talk about pressure next to a vacuum or entropy, just the
Now let
facts
us
of
look
life.
at some examples of spontaneous changes and see how they are accounted for in terms of the second law of thermodynamics. We'll take the simplest first and look at changes where only the entropy changes. Now, one, perhaps the simplest of all of these, is the expansion of a gas into a vacuum. I have in one of these bulbs some bromine, and in the other I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy. In this case, the expansion into a vacuum, nothing else is involved. There's no energy change, there's no temperature change, there's no change except entropy. So without the entropy concept, that would have been difficult to understand and difficult to account for. True, if it had to push against something and do some work, then there would have been heat and energy changes. For, as you know, if you let the air out of the tire of your car, the valve gets cold as the air does work against, pushing against the outside air as it expands. But this is not true if it expands into a vacuum. Another
There you go.
Yeah, I've got that queued up.
Okay, and then Chocolate posted this article, which I just posted in Master D.
Okay, well, they're both in the same place, so I'll keep the video queued up and I'll come back to that later.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know it's there.
Sure. Based on the fact that this, I was just... Go ahead.
Just stand up.
You're roboting, D-Rose.
Top
Can
and
you
reach
sort out
on,
your
please?
microphone? Because you've got a problem with it, and it's just roboting. I was going to say, based on the fact this PC hasn't actually crashed yet, so I was late, as you can probably figure out, starting the show, and just before I did, the computer kept crashing, and I was practicing dummy live streaming. I don't know what other term I can come up with it, but like streaming, like I am now. I'm streaming to YouTube, but it's not actually, I haven't pressed the go button in the software in the web browser. So the computer's still streaming to YouTube, but it's not fallen over. So it could be that just literally, I don't know, it could be that the router just fell over and it wasn't the computer that was actually at fault. But it seems to be fine at the moment. I said at the beginning, I don't think this show will be successful because, like I say, it was just falling over constantly before starting the show up proper or for real. Restarting the computer, changing the sound settings, and then loading OBS, which is what I did. Took 3 minutes, and then we're doing what we're doing now. And I did an intro, which probably had me shouting at my wife. I'm really stressed. I don't know if that was with a wide open mic or not. Either way.
I'm back. I was just saying good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
You might still roboting,
Yeah, I
just
recall.
saying good morning, just so you know.
I recall somebody having an issue with how the router was set up, and it would crash his whole PC.
Really?
Yeah, it was while we were gaming, and he finally said he figured it out what was wrong. He had something set up on the router for like a different setup for like a different place or I don't know what, but he said that that fix wasn't needed anymore, right? So he could set it the way it's supposed to be. And I think since then he had no more issues. I still got to hear from him to find out. So
Yeah, that may be the case for him. I think this might be an anomaly for me now, considering I'm just plagued with issues. but that particular anomaly isn't, the computer hitting 107 and then, trying to do something else reasonably complicated and then falling over because it's too hot. So I don't think that's not been my issue for the last 7 months or 8 months.
okay.
Yeah, I've got 3 more months before the warranty runs out, and if it gets to the point where the warranty runs out and I'm still having to fiddle with it every single day before a live show just to get it to stay stable enough to run a show, then I'll do a go for me. I'll just have to. I'll replace the GPU and CPU. Like I say, I do not want to do that. Nothing wrong with them. They're functioning components. They should work. Just grieves me greatly that they don't.
I think you'll get this thing figured out. You've, like you say, you got 3 months, right? So
Yeah.
either way, you're okay.
Well, not really. I've got a whole ton of other things I need to spend money on. Not that I'm saying it would make any difference if I was crowdfunding something. It'd be money that I wouldn't have had anyway, and I couldn't have used that money to buy a car for the sake of argument. So it doesn't really make any difference. By the same token, I don't want to have to e-beg for a 3rd time for this computer.
Well, don't go there yet. Don't anticipate the future. Just deal with today.
I am. Like I say, I've been doing it all day.
Good. You missed my point. I'm not, obviously, we would wish it's working months ago so that you could get to other projects and commitments. But what I'm saying is you have gained a lot of knowledge while attempting to fix this thing. And it's either going to get fixed or you're going to return it. But you're almost there. So
The time for returning it's long gone. Unless it snaps, unless it actually breaks.
mhm.
You know what I mean? It stops
Yeah.
working. It's not that it's just falling over when it gets too hot, or it's not got enough voltage to stay stable. And trying to constantly find a balance between the two. If it just stops working, in other words, the GPU shits the bed, then yeah, obviously it's still in warranty. It'll go straight back and I'll get a replacement from the original person that supplied it. Because then it's just a case of putting it in a box and going, this is broken. It's still under warranty. Give me another one.
Mhm.
What is its maximum operating temperature then? Do you know that? Oh, did we test
115
it?
C for the CPU, about 109 hotspot temperatures these are. So 109 for the GPU, about 115, 117. From seeing other people trying to push them to the limit and get them to fall over. Well, mine hovers, generally speaking, at around 107. So it's on the limit of nearly falling over. If I turn it down or try and decrease the voltage to get some of the heat out, then it's just unstable. So, hence the other
What
day
did
when
you-
it was boiling hot here in the UK, where I'd got it stable and it stayed stable for a wee while, then it didn't. The ambient temperature wasn't cool enough to keep the components cool. Just too high. So 10 degrees increase in ambient temperature pushed it over the edge. Now it's not
Why-
like
why
that now.
did you-
It's not hot here now, so it shouldn't be like that. Go on before I start the live show.
Well, before you start the show, why did you have a second take when I say this guy that you're going to review today, Mortimer? It's as if we're living rent free in his head. Why did you? Is it the way I said it, or
No, it's because why? Well, mainly because when you said, "Do you know him?" I was like, "No." Does he ring a bell? No. In other words, I'm not even giving this guy a second thought, and yeah, I recognise his face once it popped up, but I still can't remember who he is. But yeah, you're saying we're living rent free in his head. There's a stark contrast there. Would you not agree?
Yeah. Okay, from that point of view, I get it. And when I say that, I mean the whole of it, the flat Earth versus globe Earth concepts or thoughts or realities. That's what's bothering this guy. Wait till you see how the video is, but go ahead and start the show. Hey, Eli.
Again, 3 people.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Hello. Good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
No, not physical, no.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
You're going to need a flat plane for that.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No. For an elevation angle, you require a horizontal plane.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Going to need an R value and a flat plane for that.
Feel free to join in if you're in Discord. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
It's not science. You'd have to
What's
observe it
that?
first.
Yeah, we don't have a natural phenomena to observe in the form of gravity to science it, so to speak. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Wait a second. So gravity is just a word then, right?
There's no phenomena. The phenomena of all things
It's
going
just a
down
concept.
is contradicted by the fact that some things go up, some things remain neutral. There's no phenomena.
Yes, I'm saying now it's really just a word.
It's a word that is used to create the impression that there's a force holding you to the side of a spinning water ball, yes. Please share the show. 35 people watching. Woohoo!
Neil, it was gravitas originally, meaning weight, and now they've changed it to some force.
Oh, I see. Force. Yes.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Well, NASA, go on.
Well, since nobody showed me a physical container yesterday, I know about the antecedent, but there should be somewhere where I could see
Is that how you live your life? So when you
Listen,
go, look, we have the filet mignon example. So when you order a filet mignon, do you not believe a cow exists for you to have that?
Well, hold on. Today they make meat today out of plants. So,
No, I
that's really
understand.
not good.
That's non sequitur. Let's say you get a real filet mignon. Do you need to see the cow, Neil, or do you know it came from a cow since that specific meat is from a cow?
Are the three laws of thermodynamics, very simply expressed. Now let us look at some examples of spontaneous changes and see how they are accounted for in terms of the second law of thermodynamics. We'll take the simplest first and look at changes where only the entropy changes. Now, one, perhaps the simplest of all of these, is the expansion of a gas into a vacuum. I have in one of these bulbs some bromine, and in the other I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy.
All clear? Without the container, Neil, there can be no pressure.
Telling me the container is made out of glass.
No, I'm telling you that the containment was required for the demonstration.
The air out of the tire of your car, the valve gets cold as the air does work pushing against the outside air as it expands. But this is not true if it expands into a vacuum. Another.
So yeah, air expands into vacuums, Neil. If the positive assertion is that we've got a sky vacuum, then the gas would expand into it. That's what gas does. Expands into any availability of volume that it has. So by asking the question, how can we have gas pressure without a container, we're asking for the opponent, in this instance a sphere believer, to prove their assertion that the sky is a vacuum. When gas fills space, that positive assertion of a sky vacuum is overcome. Do I know what the container is? No. Do I know that a container is required to have gas pressure? Yes. Do I therefore ask my opponents to infer the obvious, which is there must be containment? Yes, I do. You don't have to. You can ask me what the container is. I can tell you I can tell you like I did yesterday that I don't know, Neil.
Nathan.
Yeah, but it has to be something solid, so I agree with you.
I'd like
I
to
don't
offer
know.
Neil.
I don't know doesn't include it must be solid, right? Now, again, you can make a logical inference about the solidity of what containment must have, but I don't have to, is my point, Neil.
You just showed me a demonstration where there was a container and it was hard, right? It's
No,
got to be some sort of structure that could hold it in.
No, what I showed you was a demonstration of gas filling space, a vacuum with gas expanding into it. The positive assertion here is that the sky is a vacuum. Now, if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. That is us overcoming the assertion. Upon overcoming the assertion that the sky, positive assertion, is a vacuum, I don't have to tell you what the sky is in order to annihilate that claim that is not true, by way of demonstration of the necessary antecedent consequent relationship of containment for gas pressure to exist in the first place, and a demonstration of gas filling space. Space is coincidentally what they call the area of volume, sky vacuum above our head, in their positive claim, not mine. Hope that's clear. Second day in a row we've done this.
No, but they'll say
Hang on,
gravity,
Neil.
or they'll say
Hang on,
something else.
Neil.
I know,
Neil.
10th. Hold on, 10th. Go ahead, Neil.
What I'm saying is they'll say gravity or they'll say something else. So I think we should say it's got to be something hard, keeping it in, just like the demonstration.
Neil, we just went over the gravity question, and you agreed to their claim being wrong, and it's not a phenomenon, and it's not a force. So what's the alternative? Is the global believers say it's this non-force force. Do you believe it's a non-force force?
We've already done this, so I'm going to decide to override this conversation
saying.
and go to the chat rather than have Neil go through the same thing for the 5th time. What's a strong vacuum, says Oz. Okay, strong vacuum is arbitrary. In terms of describing what a vacuum is, you can put a label with various Tor values up the side of the scale, and then put names next to it. Weak vacuum, very strong vacuum, very, very strong vacuum, super vacuum. You can do whatever you like. It's arbitrary. Yeah? In terms of pascals or Tor or PSI, you can ascribe values to them numerically. Now, that scale is also arbitrary, it must be said. But what are we actually talking about? We're talking about areas of volume without anything in them. Now, if there's a certain amount of stuff in them, that's what you're quantifying, how big of a vacuum, small of a vacuum, large, however the scaling you want to describe, quantitatively, Oz. But it doesn't mean anything really until you get what that word is ascribed to in terms of a PSI value or a Tor value. So what does strong vacuum mean? Nothing unless you qualify it. And once you've got it qualified, know this. Nature abhors a vacuum, and gas likes to fill areas of volume, as demonstrated a moment ago. Hope that answers your question. Neil, feel free to resume.
Agree. I think everybody can agree that 10 to the minus 17 Tor is a strong vacuum.
I don't care how it's arbitrarily described. It's a vacuum. It wouldn't matter what the difference in pressure was. If there was a tiny difference in pressure, the entropy law would still hold true. Unless we are in equilibrium with the sky, if there's any difference in pressure, high pressure goes to low pressure. Without exception, it's a law of nature. So it doesn't matter quantitatively what the difference is between the sky if it's claimed to be a vacuum, strong, high, low, medium, doesn't matter. If there's a difference, entropy takes hold, the gas will fill the volume. That's what happens. That's what entropy is. High pressure will always want to go to the low pressure. Hot will always want to go to cold. It never changes. It's a law of nature. The quantification they give for their positive claim, the word they put arbitrarily next to it, is irrelevant. But thank you, Duncan.
Also, the demonstration requires two containers, one for the vacuum and one for the gas.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're showing me a container. Now you're saying we have containment. I agree. But I'm saying they'll come along and say stupid stuff like gravity, or they'll say something like when it gets so high up that it freezes.
Why do you want to make stupid?
10th, just let him finish.
You're trying to make
10th.
stupid, not stupid.
10th.
Time to pipe up.
Hold on, Arwin as well. What's wrong with you?
Hello.
Neil's on fire. Let him go. Just let him say his piece. Go ahead, Neil.
For 3 days in a row? For 3 days in a row
Yes.
now?
Come on,
Yes.
Seth, there's 2 days in a
Yes.
row.
Hold
I
on.
support you.
Hello. Yes, 3 days in a row. 20 days in a row. 50 days in a row. Arwen and Sleeping Warrior thrashed out Gravity for 12 straight months. Day in, day out. It was tedious. For everybody watching, except me. I loved it. We got something out of it. If Neil wants to thrash this out indefinitely in circles, so be it. If his cognitive processing says, you show me a container, and I say, the container's required, he says, but if you're saying there's got to be a container, show it me. And I say, no, I'm demonstrating gas fill space. And he tells me, but there must be a container and you're not giving it to me, I keep asking for it. And I keep telling him, I don't know what the sky is, I just know we must have containment. Then we go to the housekeeping question, which we ask our opponents when they make the positive claim, can you demonstrate gas pressure without a container? Because that's essentially what the positive claim is. Gas pressure around a sphere Earth without a container. So without their fundamentalist sphere Earth belief, appeal to a place that isn't real, how can they demonstrate it? Well, they can't. They just look at the sky, point up and say, well, that's how I prove it. I prove it because I assume the sky is a vacuum in violation of natural law. That's where we're at, Neil.
Yeah, but that's not what I hear Neil saying. What I hear Neil saying is, yeah, but when I say that, then they say gravity and they say this. So he wants to have an answer for people once they run out of answers and make up stupid answers. And it's like at some point, you got to just walk away.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys.
That is what we do here, though. I mean, while I often advise Neil to do exactly the same, well, just give up, Neil. Why are you wasting your time? Some people can't be helped. It is the main point that people come here. They want to know how to overcome these arguments. Now, while it might be the case that with a general fundy, you just want to walk away, I agree. What if it's your brother, or your sister, or your wife, or your mother?
I'm just
You want to
saying,
be
there's
able
other
to...
people in the audience, and these are questions that come at me. So if they hear it on the show, then they can get an understanding of it.
Right. I appreciate it, Neil. You're on fire at the moment. You're going to get shouted at. You just have to understand that it's in the vein of the show and my frustration for general baller cognition, not you disseminating it. Like Arwen gets shouted at. But I love him.
Yeah, but that's...
But you're on fire.
Hold on, the fire's going to get put out because my brother's here and I got to go to work.
Whatever.
All right, well,
Shout out to... One sec. Shout out to Sensual Goat, who gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much for the support.
There's nothing wrong with
Nathan,
the questions.
Hold on. 10th man first, then no tanks.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the questions. The questions, I mean, I have family and friends, same situation as Neil's, exact same. Offer them the exact rebuttal to the question. They come up with gravity, tear down gravity, going in circle. I said, look, I'm not going to go in circles for you. Can you please demonstrate your gas pressure without a container? And they said, I can't. I said, great. We are breathing it. So can you since you can't demonstrate it without it, and we know you got to have it, what does that tell you? We're contained. We're a closed system. We're not an open system.
Let him make that.
And then they keep, hang on.
I was just going to say, let him make that conclusion himself. You know, you don't have to state it.
I ask questions. I'm speeding it up because you got somebody else that wants to talk. When I ask a question, I shut up. I let them answer it. Or the silence is just a win for me. The whole point is that you do your best to share it, but if they don't have ears for it, you walk away.
Okay, quick shout out, and then we'll go to no tanks. Shout out to Russ, who says, thank you, Sensual Goat, for the gifted sub. This is YouTube, not Twitch. Gifted membership. I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed. Go ahead, no tanks.
Nathan, I had a question. You had stated just a moment ago that for whatever reason, right, it goes from high pressure to low pressure, and heat goes to cold. So hot goes to cold, high pressure goes to low pressure. Does that follow then that cold is at low pressure and hot is at a higher pressure? And then what is pressing on what?
Well, you can have water in liquid state at any pressure. You can vary the pressure. You can increase the pressure. You can have a pressure cooker to increase the pressure on the steam. What's your point? I don't really understand your question.
I was just asking if these two things follow. If high pressure to low pressure would then in turn, yeah, right. You compress water, it turns into steam. So therefore it's heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's the inverse.
The heat would excite the molecules. The cold, it doesn't excite them as much. Is that what you're looking for?
But we're only talking about gas. In
Sure,
this. I
maybe.
see where you're going. You're trying to convolute a process that's applicable with pressure of a gas to solids. It doesn't quite translate. That's why it's the more friendly way of what we would get from our opponents, where they try and do it the other way around, where they try and make gas behave like solids and liquids in terms of them being homogeneous or isotropic, forming layers and such. Well, that isn't how gas behaves. It's anisotropic. It's inhomogeneous. Therefore, it's going to expand it in all directions and form pressure by pressing on the walls of its containment. But that pressure qualification, how much of it, but based on the heat, is typically only going to be applied to gases in this particular scenario.
Thank you.
Only because
Nathan,
what gives it away is the pressure. When you say pressure, that's typically going to be gases. Yes, you can have pressure from other things, but I'm saying in this context.
Before you start the video,
I'm not sure if you heard me.
hey, Chocolate. In fact, Chocolate posted this citation, the one that I put for you before you start the video. What is gas?
Okay, so what is gas? Oh, it's giving me an advert. How delightful. Someone want to read this? I could
Yeah, I'll read
just
it.
about, if somebody can't, I can just, it's big enough for me to read it.
No, I'll read it.
Okay,
I'll
go
read
ahead.
it. Yeah. A gas is a substance that is in gaseous or vapor state of matter. The term gas is also used in reference to the state itself when applied to matter that has the properties of a gaseous substance. Gas is one of the four natural states of matter, along with liquid, solid, and plasma. A gas has no fixed shape or volume. The atoms or molecules that make up the gas fill the container that holds them. The gas expands until it's uniformly distributed throughout the container, even in the presence of gravity. If not confined to a container, a gas disperses into space. Okay, scroll down, please, until you get to what are characteristics of gases. Do you see that?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, so number one, volume, the amount of space the gas occupies. Density, the amount of mass in the specific volume, how tightly the particles are packed together. Temperature, the absolute temperature of the gas. 4, pressure, the amount of force the gas exerts on the container holding it. I'll leave it there because the video that's coming up, this will be important.
Okay, so we have covered this guy before, although his face is familiar, but I can't remember what context we covered him in before. So, although I haven't seen this video, this is not an unfamiliar face if you've watched the show. Anyway, you know the drill. As with everybody, we would hope that he would return the favour of us shouting him out and telling you to go help him in the algorithm by leaving him a comment that says, @Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Let him know that we responded to his video. And that video, the link thereof, is in the live stream chat right now. So feel free to do it immediately if you are actually watching live with us. Or if you're not watching it after the fact, just pause the video. Go and click on the link. Go and let him know. @Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Because we loved your video. Now, we don't know at this point. Obviously, I'm not going to predict the future. I don't really know where this is going. Although Tent has watched this. And it's Chocolate that shared this. Is that correct?
No, QE recommended it.
Okay, so this has come via QE. I don't know why, but I guess we're going to find out. I'm going to have to adjust the volume, so blast your ears. I'm sorry.
Hi everyone. As we've established, flat earthers believe, or at least claim to believe, that we live inside.
Immediately starts with a stereotyping fallacy. Flat earthers believe, okay, that we all, okay, so this is going to be a stereotyping fallacy. 5 seconds in, immediately opens the video with a stereotyping fallacy. Sad. I hate these kind of videos.
Inside a giant snow globe. The
Do we? Giant snow globe? Really? When I said to Neil repeatedly that I don't have to make a claim about what the sky is and I don't know, that means all flat earthers say we live in a giant snow globe. I've immediately proven your stereotyping fallacy wrong, Mortimer. What the hell? I don't claim that I'm a flat earther. My name's Nathan Oakley. I'm sending people your way to say at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And I do not declare that we live in a snow globe. What a scumbag. I mean, I could contrast that by making up something about you being a globe head and say all globe heads are X, whilst with your face on the screen. I could. I'm not going to. It's a stereotyping fallacy.
Biblical firmament supposedly keeps the air from...
All right. So again, while I critique my friends in biblical love, let's call them, on the panel for using this word that I do not claim firmament based on their biblical understanding of a description of what I describe as containment being required for gas pressure we're breathing. Again, you're going to stereotype us all as having a firmament and a snow globe. 2 for 2, stereotyping fallacies.
Bubbling up into the waters above.
3 for 3. 14 seconds in, he's used 3 stereotyping fallacy. Oh my word.
And his tone is so sarcastic.
The Bible actually
he's doing a poisoning of the well fallacy as
Good
well,
catch.
is what it seems like to me.
No, that's a good catch. So Duncan's just pointed out that this is a separate fallacy. By using stereotyping fallacies and opening the video with them, it's also a poisoning the well fallacy. So that is 4 fallacies so far.
Describes the Earth as a snow globe surrounded by water.
Where's this from? Citation, please. This is an individual's video that they've produced, or you have. I don't know. It doesn't say. Does it have it in the show notes where this came from? My Patreon, Flat Earthers, another stereotyping fallacy. Try everything. What's this? I don't seem to see any citation that says where this has come from.
One way they try to debunk the reality that the Earth is actually a globe.
Taking the question fallacy. The reality that the Earth is a globe. No, it's a model. It's a heliocentric model. Earth is a sphere. Copernicus gave us the orbital motions. I mean, this is a model. But you're going to reify it immediately, so that's 2 more fallacies. Yeah, 3 more. Baseless assertion, reification, and what was the first one I said? Begging the question. Baseless assertion, begging the question, reification. 5, 6, 7 fallacies.
Surrounded by the vacuum of space is by pointing...
Vacuum of space, another begging the question fallacy and second law of thermodynamics violation. So you assume that this area is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum and that this high pressure gas isn't going to expand into the black area that's a vacuum. Now, we can debunk that claim because it violates a law of nature. That begging the question fallacy, 8th.
Pointing out that if that were the case, the atmosphere would drift away because there's no container keeping it in.
Precisely. So you've debunked your own claim that the sky is a vacuum by asserting our rebuttal, which is to say that if you claim, which you do, that the sky is a vacuum, as you did with the begging the question fallacy, that the gas would fill the space because you require containment.
Gas pressure requires a container.
That's correct. It does.
Become a flurf mantra.
Sorry, a flurf mantra or a fact of life. How do you have gas pressure without a container beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the sky is a vacuum?
Just like water always finds its level.
Sorry, a principle that's used to build things? Do you think this is a flurf mantra or something that is used in construction? What the hell are you talking about, man? Flurf mantra.
Wait, hold on. Is NASA a flurf mantra central? Because NASA has container in their definition of gas pressure. So is he making fun of NASA as well?
Yeah, let's take apart this number 9 fallacy.
Hang on.
Stereotyping fallacy. Have you got that citation by any chance so we can tell him what NASA, not flurf mantra, says about containment? Have you got that to hand?
Chocolates or the one that I read from?
The one that NASA do. NASA, I can almost verbatim, well, I'll paraphrase it. But gas pressure is the force exerted on the walls of its container. That's a citation from memory from NASA.
Yep. Give me a few. I can go find it.
Okay.
Okay. While he's doing that, I want to comment on that. He's giving flat earthers credit for water finding its level at rest. Where As if no one has seen that. He's saying something so obvious, but he wants to make it sound like it's wrong.
Well, no, Duncan's actually the one that's got this right. For all my identifying all the fallacies, he's actually got the main one correct, which is to say that by poisoning the well of an assertion that flat earthers make and saying flat earthers are dumb with all of the stereotyping fallacies he started within the first 15 seconds, it means that when he starts making assertions that, well, flat earthers say, when he starts debunking principles that apply to nature, it seems like he's just debunking claims. It's a bit like when they start telling us, well, you say celestial navigation is XYZ, and I'm going to debunk that. No. Celestial navigation is, you say otherwise because you're on a sphere. Not flat earthers' celestial navigation, just celestial navigation. In this case, not flat earthers' water finds its level, but a principle used to erect buildings, water finds its level. Not a fluff mantra.
Yeah, but he's just play that last 5 seconds. He's contrasting gas pressure needing containment to water finding its level. I couldn't have a better compliment than that.
The atmosphere would drift away because there's no container keeping it in. Gas pressure requires a container has become a Flurf mantra, just like water always finds its level. So let's talk about gas pressure. This is Flurf Pratt. Flat Earth points refuted 1,000 times.
I've posted NASA, aka Flurf Mantra Central, in Master B. It's not a link; it's just a screenshot of that page. But
okay, well, we'll do that first. I'll just shout out James Richards. What is with most globers, in quotes, always using obvious CGI in their videos? Look at this guy's video. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, all I need to do is point out that there's a thin layer of gas, James, that's right next to 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, and gas fills space. But according to this guy, Flurf mantra, containers. Anyway, let's go to NASA. Chocolate, do you want to read the important? I can't even read that on any of my screens. I don't know, you're going to read the bit that's important because I can't see it in that lot.
Yeah, hold on, give me a second.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right.
While he's Chocolate's doing that, I also want to point out that he's using Flurf terms, and when you revert to insults, you just display yourself as the loser. So he opens up with insults right away.
You there, Chocolate?
You should see how he ends.
Yeah, give me a second. I can't talk right now. Give me a second.
Okay, we'll go back to the video temporarily just while Chocolate's doing that.
If you like the video, thumb it up, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Yeah, I might as well advise my audience to do the same. Should you respond? Given this Flurf mantra is something that we disseminate daily, I can only assume you're referring to us. Hopefully, if you make a response, you have got a bigger channel than me. It might actually make a slight difference to my subscriber base were you to respond and return the favour with the algorithmic love I'm currently sharing with you, my friend. Let's get you on screen.
Nathan, I found a link for Chocolate's article, and I can read his article if you want.
Before we begin.
Okay.
The molecules are in constant random motion and frequently collide with each other and with the walls of a container. Because the molecules are in motion, a gas will expand to fill the container. Since density is defined to be a mass divided by the volume.
In the next 15 seconds, you can take action to save our planet. Scientists have described the climate crisis as a code red for humanity. Help us pressure our leaders.
Pressures.
Sorry.
Wow.
I was on the wrong screen while I was scrambling back to find the PC mute button. Go ahead. Sorry.
Since density is defined to be the mass divided by the volume, density depends directly on the size of the container in which a fixed mass of gas is confined. And the link is below that.
surrounded by a larger volume of air at low pressure. Poke a hole in the balloon and the pressure equalizes. The balloon pops.
Okay, so that would be gas pressure differential achieved by way of containment. So far, you're affirming our point.
It certainly looks like the flurfs are right. Without a sealed container, pressure equalizes.
We are right. That's correct.
Concession accepted.
Yes, concession accepted. We're absolutely correct. It's a law of nature. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. It's not a blurf rhetoric. It's a law of nature.
Ergo, if you have a relatively small volume of air surrounded by a huge vacuum, the air should reasonably spread out to fill the vacuum.
In line with the second law of thermodynamics, that's exactly what gas does. Gas fills space.
Getting a huge volume with infinitesimal pressure. So far, this seems perfectly reasonable, but let's see if we can find a problem.
A problem with what? The second law of thermodynamics? High pressure to low pressure? I don't think so.
Suppose, instead of filling a balloon with air, we fill it with helium. We all know what'll happen now, right? When we pop the balloon, the helium doesn't spread out evenly in the room, which we're assuming is...
Does it not? So let me get this straight. You think when you pop a helium balloon, it retains some form of shape amongst the other gaps in the gas particles? Are you having me on? Is that what he just said?
Helium. We all know what'll happen now, right? When we pop the balloon, the helium doesn't spread out evenly in...
That's a second law of thermodynamics violation. The helium will spread out evenly. It'll dissipate throughout your room. What you're suggesting is that when you pass gas, it stays in a particular location, doesn't spread out throughout your whole house, letting the whole place know how stinky and dirty you are? Yeah, it does. All gases do that. Without exception, sulfur hexafluoride, for example, you can pump a high quantity of it, displacing a load of the air around it. But with time, entropy takes place. The gas disperses. That's what entropy is. You're saying that you pop a helium balloon and it doesn't disperse? What a crock of crap. Shout out to James Richards. Anybody on the panel got anything to say on that little statement there? James Richards says, it's not that flurfs are right about the second law of thermodynamics, it just looks that way. Yeah, that's what he said, right, James? They could be right about the second law of thermodynamics, but let's pick flaw in the second third. Yeah, he's poisoned the well, though, as Duncan pointed out. So it's just flurf rhetoric that he's taken apart, not a law of nature. Right on, James. Yeah, any comment from the panel about what he just said? About gas not spreading out helium?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. Wasn't sure how I was being heard. But yeah, I do have a comment. I mean, he probably is pointing at that at first the helium will go spread out a little bit more at the top, but eventually it will all mix up evenly. So he's probably just pointing at that and thinks that that means it doesn't spread out. It will eventually, though.
Well, I think he's talking about lighter gas versus heavier gas, like you brought up the example of sulfur, whatever you call it. Eventually, it hits other gas particles, finds openings, and works its way. It all does what it does because it's in a container to be pressurized. And he's trying to avoid that argument.
Right.
In the room, which we're assuming is filled with air at normal pressure.
Where did you get the air?
How big is that room?
No. Where did you get the air at normal pressure to begin with? That would be the force it exerts on the walls of its containment, as per the NASA citation and any citation in regards to what gas pressure is. Well, where did you get that air for it to be in, for your example to take place? Before we go any further, if we're talking about gas pressure, I want to know how you achieved this gas pressure in existence at the start of this example. You're going to need to show me how you achieved that, because that's specifically what we're talking about. You call it atmosphere. That would be air in a sphere shape, arbitrarily stuck to the side of a ball, not expanding into a vacuum. Yeah, you need to show me how that's possible. Not just start with the already existing normal gas pressure. How did you achieve that in a sky vacuum? That's the point. Don't just start with it. You need to explain how you got it.
the helium goes up, because even at the pressure inside the balloon...
Bye-bye gravity. So gas not going down with a downward force. Why isn't the gravity pulling it down to the ground? So you're debunking gravity at the same time here, my friend. So helium, not affected by the assumption of a downward bias because of the gravity force holding us down. Somehow helium don't do that. Oh yeah, that's the end of gravity then, isn't it? Because we haven't got a phenomena to study of all things going down if helium's going up. That's a bit of a bummer for your gravity belief.
It's less dense than the surrounding air.
Less dense. So this description could be admirably described with its density, respect to the air around it. I see. So sod all to do with gravity, and even by Mortimer's own words, everything to do with its relative density then. Really? I wonder if gravity will get a mention.
What do we call this, Flurfs? That thing that makes things with low density go up?
Density, you just told us.
That's right. Buoyancy.
By buoyancy, that would be ascribing a gravitational force pulling the gases around the air, unlike how water behaves or liquids behave, to make the other gases, helium in this instance, go up. Now, buoyancy is automatically utilising your gravity belief. Now, maybe you think your audience doesn't know that when you say it, but I know that. So when you say buoyancy, you mean that the gases around the helium were pulled down with gravity? No, the gases around the helium aren't going down. They're also moving in all directions, not down with a bias. In fact, quite the reverse. They come out of the ground and go up. So what's this buoyancy being inserted into gas behaviour for? Oh, it's so we can ascribe gas go down, go boom, boom with gravity in a few moments. You watch.
Good, Flurf. Remind me to give you a cookie later.
Right, why are you patronising me as an audience member? I don't really understand the need for this.
And what did we experimentally confirm? And
sorry, experimentally? What now? Hello? We experimentally confirmed something with these shitty old pictures of models on a soundstage? Oh, definitely not. This is also claimed to have taken place in a second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, having journeyed to a light in the sky we called the moon. Definitely not possible because the gas that would escape from these claimed to be in a sky vacuum space suits needs to be contained, right? Stop them dying. Well, what about Earth? Wouldn't that need containment? Yeah, absolutely would, to stop the gas filling the space like the spacesuits came to do. Yeah, but meanwhile, if he turns around and looks back at Earth, he can see gas not doing that. Yeah, definitely not.
And the video about gravity and density?
Gravity and density? Now, gravity's a pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending. It's got sod all to do with density and everything to do with Einstein's ideas of conceptual fourth dimensions bending to create geodesics in space-time. I don't know where you're getting an idea that gas go down, go boom, boom, to create a buoyant force in helium to make it go up. When pseudo-force space-time doesn't do that, that's definitely not gravity/density. You seem to be taking concepts of density, which you've admirably described already, and incorporating in a non-force of gravity to that. Non-forces don't make gases go down, and gases don't go down. Shout out to James Richards. Day after this show critiques itself and has gotten a passion of strength. Is that right? Position of strength. How many times... I should have moved the monitor at the start of the show. How many times have you seen a Glober critique their thoughts and conclusions? What are you saying, that we had a... Did we have an internal discussion yesterday? I don't remember that. Maybe we did. Is James talking about something we were arguing about amongst ourselves? Never happens, does it? We always agree with each other. Thank you for the super chat, James Richards.
Can I just say, I find it funny how this guy is taking this insulting tone with these flurfers he's talking about, when literally he started this video with agreeing with all the claims that we actually make. I mean, why would you do that?
Because they're not claims. They're because to make it seem like he's being generous to the stupid flurfs, when in fact he's agreeing with natural law, but saying that it's our claim. So when he disagrees with natural law, he seemed agreeable to the flurfs, the flat earthers, but in fact, no, natural law's wrong, but it's not natural law that's wrong. It's the flat earthers I was really agreeable with earlier that are wrong.
It's just confessional debating again, except with more ad hom added.
Gas pressure needing a container, it's like a mantra to flat earthers, like water finds its level. Remember that?
Yeah. But in the meantime, what he's got is he's got a buoyant force making gas go down, go boom, boom to force helium up. He hasn't specifically said that yet, but that's what he's doing.
Of course, this is where flurfs who watched it will develop amnesia, because as usual, they don't want to understand, but those who actually...
Interesting he's got Cletus in this clip, because I've got a clip of Cletus where a poo walks up to him, and what Cletus is selling is balls what go up, and it's helium balloons. So that's what he's got for sale, gravity-defying helium balloons. But yeah, it's always the stupid idiot like Phoebe in Friends or Cletus in Simpsons that disseminate the reality of your situation, but with a dumb voice on, so that the very obvious nature of your reality has been disseminated through some numpty with buck teeth, so that it doesn't sound like it should be something you should be paying attention to. That's how they use these characters. Interesting, eh?
Sorry, can you play the last 5 seconds? Because the derogatory terms he's using is a tell.
In the video about gravity and density. Of course, this is where flurfs who watched it will develop amnesia, because as usual, they don't want to understand, but those who actually care about reality will recall the wooden die in the falling cup.
What's this got to do with gas? This isn't gas.
There is no buoyancy if we cancel out gravity, because...
Sorry, no buoyancy when you're talking about gases going down and you immediately go to a demonstration with liquids in it. And this is not a gas. That's not how gas behaves. Do gases go down? Do we have a layer, like a homogeneous layer to the top of gases? Now, you see, what gases do is they fill whatever volume they've got, which this demonstration isn't doing. Yeah, but gas doesn't behave like that, but that's what he'll have it doing in a minute. Gases going down, go boom, boom, to make the helium go up because of gravity. Yeah, gases don't behave like that, but he's falsifying his premise from the start by using a different phase, in this case liquid rather than gas. Well, we're talking about gases and how they'd fill space, so roll out the liquid demonstration quick sharp.
Yeah, but gases or buoyancy requires containment. I mean, you have to have a containment to have gas pressure in order for buoyancy to take place within it.
That's a good point. So, given that his argument, Arwin, is that we shouldn't need a container, his buoyancy demonstration's in a container, so we'll just put that out in our back pocket just for now. Good catch, Arwin. Shout out to Central Goat to share your pain. Yeah, that's what this is. I think that was what 10th Man was pointing out, Central Goat. Spot on. Thanks for the super chat.
Well, you know what I hear when he says that? There is no buoyancy without gravity. To me, what I hear is that there is no need for an excuse when my claim is not in effect. That's all I hear, because yeah, I've said it before. Buoyancy is just an excuse when gravity doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Because anything that goes up, they just say, "Oh, buoyancy." Well, everything is supposed to go down according to you, except the things that don't. So now you have an excuse for it. So now he just said you don't need buoyancy if you don't have gravity. Yeah, I agree. You don't need an excuse if you don't have a claim.
Shout out to James Richards. He says, can someone yell in this guy's ear, there is no such thing as gravity? No, you need to talk to him in the same sort of language he uses. Say, gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom to create a buoyant force like you're demonstrating here with liquids. Now have a little cookie and get lost.
Buoyancy is a result of gravity.
Oh, really? Because things all go down. Right, I see.
Oh, wait. Gas is affected by gravity.
No, it isn't. It's not going down, go boom, boom. There are no gases that are created in the sky and falling to the ground. Quite the contrary. Gases are created at ground level and make their way up. That's why you can breathe in areas that have very little vegetation, like at the top of Everest, because the gases have come out of the ground from the vegetation, if you're talking about oxygen, for example, and made its way up to the top of Everest, where there's nothing producing gas. That's because gas isn't going down. In fact, it's going up. Now, if the sky was a vacuum, it would never press on anything. Therefore, it would never achieve gas pressure. It would just dissipate into the sky vacuum to have never achieved gas pressure, ever. But meanwhile, gas isn't going down. It's going up. Have you ever seen a cloud? Have you never seen water vapour turning into steam from a puddle and turning into clouds? Is that something that's beyond you? Do you think that gravity, a downward bias, is affecting gases? You're an idiot.
Nathan, Chocolate posted that article. Let me read it again. And we read it already. A gas has no fixed shape or volume. The atoms or molecules that make up the gas fill the container that holds them. The gas expands until it is uniformly distributed throughout the container, even in the presence of gravity. If not confined to a container, a gas disperses into space.
So what could be causing the atmosphere to stick to the Earth?
Atmo what now? That's a begging the question fallacy. So he's saying what could cause the air that's already in a sphere-shaped atmo, that's atmo, air, and sphere shape. So how is the sphere-shaped air? That's an oxymoron. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere for you to start explaining why the sphere-shaped air works the way it does. You're assuming air can violate the second law of thermodynamics, dissipation of gas into volumes, by saying it's already in a sphere shape. Atmo what now? No, don't beg the question. Don't just assume you've got an arbitrary forming sphere-shaped gas pressure, like you've got behind you in this CGI rendering of a second law of thermodynamics violation with gas not filling space. Air isn't sphere-shaped.
And Nathan, he's scattergunning his presuppositional claims. Like he's really scattergunning that he is leaning on those presuppositional claims. It's crazy.
Yeah, if I can beg the question that air's already in a sphere shape, I can say, well, there you have it. Sphere-shaped air that I assume not dispersing into sky vacuums after I've assumed that it's already sphere-shaped and not dispersing. Well, what a genius.
Gas pressure requires a container is
absolutely correct.
An oversimplification.
Not an oversimplification unless you can demonstrate it not needing containment, beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the sky is a vacuum, which you've just asserted in atmospheric assumption. Atmo, air, sphere shape, not dispersing into sky vacuums, but arbitrarily forming a sphere because you assume it's so. Yeah, it's not oversimplified. It's a fact. Without the container, there can be no pressure. Unless you're prepared to actually demonstrate that beyond your fundy belief in a sky vacuum, we're not prepared to accept that there is a sky vacuum. It's just that simple. It violates a natural law. Shout out to James Richards again. Going heavy on the super chats. Really appreciate it, though. Even though there is no such thing as gravity, let's argue how gas would act within it. Exactly. Yeah, there isn't any gravity phenomena. He's saying, well, the reason gases go up is because all gases go down to displace the ones up.
It applies to what's called an ideal gas, which, as the name suggests, is an idealization.
No, it doesn't apply to an ideal gas. An ideal gas is a concept used within thermodynamics to simplify the description of things that occur always. So when you are describing gas behaviour in general, you can describe gas behaviour in general, that is to say what gas generally does, with ideal gas. So you can simplify the description. There's going to be subtle differences, but it's there to help an understanding be achieved when dissemination of the description of things that always occur is given from one person to another. We have these concepts like ideal gases and isolated systems. So we can oversimplify the description of how gases behave. You're convoluting how a description is disseminated and formed with things like ideal gases with how gases actually do behave. No, ideal gas has been used to describe how gases always behave, not the other way around.
An ideal gas is made up of particles.
So now we've got an ideal gas. So now you're telling us what an ideal gas is. No, it's used within the convention to describe what gases do. So I've already caught you in your...
that aren't affected by any forces other than those that arise when they collide with the walls of the container.
Yeah, to describe how gases behave. Ideal gas is used within the convention of the second law of thermodynamics in this context and would describe how gas pressure is achieved by the gases colliding with the walls of the container. Now, because the convention has a simplification with it, you're going to say that it's not true when describing how gas behaves with that convention? Is that what you're going to do?
Particles never collide with each other and aren't affected by force fields like electric, magnetic, or gravitational fields.
Who gives a crap? They still need containment. You're going to tell me that with electrostatic or magnetic forces, you don't need containment? Okay, show us.
Of course, such gases don't exist in reality.
Who cares? Non sequitur. We want to see containment of gas because that's what's required. If you can say otherwise, we need to see it. Doesn't matter what other forces will do to gases or whether or not they're colliding with each other. It doesn't change the fact that they will collide with a container to achieve gas pressure in the first instance. You're not overcoming that with any of this.
It's often a good enough approximation, though.
Of how to describe how gases behave. Yeah, it's a good enough description to say, yeah, it's going to need a container to form gas pressure. If it didn't have the container, it wouldn't have anything to press on, therefore wouldn't have pressure. Not an oversimplification, a convention.
That's where the misunderstanding comes from.
Not a misunderstanding. PV equals NKT. Oh, there we go. Nevertheless, we've got a V in there. That's volume! How big is the container in order to have this description? You need a container to have volume. You stupid numpty.
For example, the ideal gas law, PV equals NKT, is often used to show how pressure, volume, and temperature relate in gas, but again, as the name suggests, it assumes an ideal gas.
It's describing how gas behaves by way of the convention, and within that convention, ideal gas is used to describe how gas behaves. And you need a volume. Without a container, where are you going to get V? Are you going to know how big the volume is? The volume, the amount of area within which you're going to be pressing on walls of it. You need a container to even describe it with ideal gas. Describe what? How gas behaves.
Why is he continuing to speak about a gas that he himself said doesn't exist? Why doesn't he actually use real gases that we can actually prove?
Because it's a straw man. It's called a straw man. He's going to burn it in a minute, saying it's flat earthers' ideas.
So it's just an approximation when applied to a real situation.
So go after the people who came up with ideal gas law and thermodynamic law. Oh, right. Oh, my bad. This is just I keep saying glurf. This is just flurfers who say this. This is a flurf convention. This is Nathan's ideas on screen. Oh, it's just thermodynamics that you've got an issue with then. It's Latin, it's gas law and gas descriptions of gas behaviour. They're wrong and oversimplified, therefore not right. But that's flurf's ideas. Really? Isn't it? No. I don't know why you're addressing any of this to us.
So can we safely approximate the Earth's atmosphere in its entirety as an ideal gas?
I don't know about entirety, but you can do whatever you like if you're describing gas behaviour. If you're describing the gas behaviour of a sphere Earth, then it's going to be the same because it's applying the description of how gas behaves to it. In natural law, you're talking about how things behave in nature, just describing how they do things. You're going to say that, well, in this nature, which isn't nature, it doesn't behave like that. Is that where you're going? So it just doesn't behave as things get described to behave. When we have a sphere Earth in a vacuum, it just doesn't do that. Okay, so the way we describe gas behaviour is wrong. No, your sphere Earth in a sky vacuum that you've never visited and violates this natural law is wrong.
Let's see.
Nathan.
Let's consider the particles in a container filled with ideal gas at non-zero temperature.
Why? Just show a real gas in a container. Go on, Tenth.
Yeah, he said atmosphere. Didn't he start off with a snow globe? So we have sphere shape there?
By assumption, he's decided that air takes the shape of a sphere arbitrarily. But now we've got ideal gas in a container. So when he takes apart the descriptions of the convention, he's, taking apart how gas behaves? No, he's going to need to do this with real gas if he's going to say it's not the convention that's wrong, but gases don't behave like that. But what he's doing is taking apart the convention description of gas rather than gas behaviour. The convention description of gas behaviour is just that, a description of what gas does. But he's decided he's going to take apart the convention. Okay, well, we'll see if we get an actual demonstration of what gas really does. Afterwards, we'll see.
Temperature is a measure of kinetic energy per particle, so these particles are bouncing around inside the container, colliding with the walls. As they exert force on the wall, by Newton's third law, the wall exerts a force back on the particles.
Laws of motion of Newton were not right. End quote.
This is what keeps them inside. This is what gives rise to the pressure.
That's correct. So, aside from Newton's incorrect laws of motion, you've got pressure because it's pressing. Yeah, profound.
Because we can't keep track of all the particles in the container, we can safely treat the position and velocity of any single particle within the container as being random. Now, think about this. What is the probability of any two particles occupying the exact same location?
Well, obviously they can't occupy the same location because that's impossible. Who cares? So far, we've got a description of how you've got to have gas pressure in containment. That's all you've done so far, is constantly reiterate our point that containment's needed, and every example you've given so far has containment within it. So you're not doing very well, other than proving that containment's required and described in every way, shape or form when you describe gas pressure. 107 people watching, please share the show. Gas pressure and a vacuum bot, I think it means both, require a container. It is impossible to have them side by side without two containers. Right. Yeah, you need a container for a vacuum also. Right on, James Richard. Thank you for the super chat.
Remember that ideal gas particles can't collide with each other, so this...
Sorry, so we're going to debunk how ideal gas particles that aren't colliding with each other behave. I see. Why would we do such a thing? Is it because when you're using ideal gas descriptions of a simplification of how a gas will generally behave, it's not to take apart as a straw man within the convention, because the convention is just describing how other gases behave with an oversimplified convention? Yeah, I don't know why he's doing this. His issue is with gas law, basically, isn't it?
To all the normies listening, understand that this guy has, for the past 5 minutes, from what I've heard, has been talking about gases that he himself said do not exist. Ask yourself why.
Because he's going to claim that those are the gases we're talking about. Maybe.
Should be possible. If there are a million places a particle could be, and in a macroscopic container there are a lot more than that, but let's keep it simple here, then the probability is 1 in a million. So what's the probability of all the particles in the gas occupying?
Who gives a crap? It's all in a container, and it's going to need to be to achieve gas pressure. Ergo, outer space is fake. Who cares about this maths probability of where gas particles will be within containment? Your sphere, Earth, and a sky vacuum doesn't have this. Doesn't have any containment. So who cares? You're going to start working out probabilities for positionings of gas particles when describing them outside of the convention, so you can debunk ideal gas by way of probability distribution of where gas particles will appear? This is utterly absurd. You just need to show us gas without containment, beyond your fundamentalist religious sky vacuum belief.
Occupying the exact same location? Well, that would be 1 in a million to the power of the number of particles minus 1. Absolutely negligible, as in won't happen in the lifetime of the universe if we try once every now.
Won't happen within your description of what an ideal gas convention described as doing when describing other gas works within this description of that ideal gas working outside of that convention. I'll keep summarizing it for as long as you're doing it.
Nanosecond negligible.
Can I just add real quick? I'm
Yes.
sorry. What was the word he just used? Negligible? What do I always say that word means when they use it? Means it's not happening, right? Rewind like 10 seconds. See what he says when he says that means it's negligible?
Particles minus 1. Absolutely negligible, as in won't happen in the lifetime of the universe if we try once every nanosecond negligible. By this reasoning, what is the most probable distribution of particles?
Right, I don't know how we're working out probability distributions of an ideal gas convention when working outside the convention, but here we go.
That's right, an even distribution. So the most likely configuration is one where the pressure is the same in the entire container. This is why pressure evens out. Even distributions are more probable. We say that they have higher entropy.
Okay, so every description so far that he's given works within the convention of an entropic description that has a volume or containment for the volume. Okay, you're not really debunking anything here, my friend. I don't. Do we ever get to the point where you say, therefore, the sky can be a vacuum?
In fact, we explain why the air escapes from the popped balloon with the...
So if it escapes from the popped balloon, it's going to escape into space. We're talking about a tiny little differential. That's what I tried to explain. I think it was in the pre-show. Doesn't matter how big that differential is. The difference between normal pressure in the air around you and the pressure that you insert into a balloon is minor. But yet you get a massive bang and it immediately dissipates into the area of volume to equalise in pressure, which is precisely what the sky would do. It would never have achieved gas pressure because it would never have had anything to contain it.
Second law of thermodynamics. The entropy of an isolated system never decreases. That is, a system that has been prepared in a state that is unlikely to occur spontaneously, given the possibility to do so, will transition to a more probable state. A state of more even energy distribution. A state of higher entropy.
Okay, so entropy. Yeah, we understand. The arrow of time. Yeah. Okay, so it's trying to reach equilibrium. Great. You're describing the second law of thermodynamics. That's how gas spreads out. And you're using an isolated system and ideal gas to describe it in the most simplistic of way. Okay? So gas spreads out. That's right. It would spread out into the sky vacuum. Another shout out to James Richards. James Richards, sorry. Gas doesn't find a position within a container and stay there. Is that what he's saying? It's always moving. No. What he's trying to do is take apart as a straw man the description within the second law of thermodynamics of ideal gases within an isolated system. As I said, it's an oversimplification to give you an idea of how gas behaves when you use it as a description. It's a convention. That's all it is. It's a description of what happens always. Now, will it absolutely concur with something that is described within that convention as not actually existing, as he has also disclaimed? No. It's just a way of simplifying how gases behave. Does it mean that this is strictly what they'll do? No, you're trying to describe them to other people in a simplistic way. But he's going to try and debunk it for its flaws in simplicity for disseminating how all gases behave within this convention. It's pathetic, really. Thank you for the super chat, James Richards.
Nathan,
This is all.
Nathan, do we live in an isolated system when NASA claims they're going into space?
There are no isolated systems. It's part of the convention that he's using. But do we live in a closed system? Yes, we do. We must. We must be in a closed system because if it was open, the gas would never, ever achieve pressure. Simple. They say it's open because they say they're going to the moon and Mars. Well, so what? They wave goodbye to the gas pressure that's no longer going to expand into the volume it's got to available to it? But they, in their rocket, can carry on into a sky vacuum 10 to the minus 17 tour on a trip to Mars. And as they look back, they see that gas pressure they wave by to, not contained, not filling the sky vacuum. It's just nonsense.
Also why a hot cup of coffee cools down in a room at normal room temperature.
See that steam? Debunking gravity. Right? Is that going down, go boom boom? Is the gases around it being forced down? No.
Okay, so by the second law of thermodynamics, if the Earth's atmosphere is an ideal...
Atmo, what now? So we're going to use the second law of thermodynamics description of entropy to describe an air sphere arbitrarily not filling its volume. Okay, no, that wouldn't work in the second law of thermodynamics. You're not going to be able to describe atmosphere, an oxymoron, sphere-shaped air, in the second law of thermodynamics, because you're starting with a premise that violates it.
Ideal gas sealed in by the biblical firmament, it will have the same pressure everywhere.
Why? We have dynamic systems. So you think it would be the same pressure everywhere. So if you've got literally something producing pressure, gas, extra gas, in the form of a coffee cup, you're telling me that if you measure the pressure there, it's going to be the same as on top of Everest? No. You've got high pressure gas being produced at ground level. If you put your pressure meter over a valve that's got a hole in it with natural gas being pumped around the place, you're going to see a higher level pressure coming out the hole than you are 10 meters away. It dissipates. But by the same token, it changes form when you look at the water cycle and comes back down as a liquid. Rain. But you're going to tell me that the pressure is the same everywhere? No, we have a dynamic system.
Sure, we all know of how the weatherman talks about high and low air pressure, but that's...
Yeah, so immediately debunking your claim that Flirth say we'd have a system that had equal pressure then. Well, no, we'd need to have something to achieve pressure first to then achieve the weather that you were talking about, the high pressure to low pressure entropy description that weathermen give you, that would first need us to have gas pressure to achieve any of that. All of this that you can see on screen in his demonstration, every last bit of it, requires we have containment in the first instance for any of this to occur. Now, he's just assumed we've got sphere-shaped air and a vacuum. No justification, and every example given that is not actually debunked so far utilises containment. So he's not doing very well. James Richard again, shout out to you for all these super chats. Really appreciate all the support. Says gas pressure only achieves entropy within a space suit while within space. Right. Yeah, I mean, entropy's a bitch when you're in a spacesuit, but looking back at Earth, you can wave at all that gas pressure just staying there. But obviously, it's going to vacate your suit if you haven't got it. Thanks for the super chat, James Richard. Really appreciate the support.
Just temporary local variations, that's no problem. It's noise, basically. Particles moving at random won't always be perfectly evenly distributed.
Really? No, they won't. It's chaotic. What are you talking about? It's just talking nonsense. He said the weather. Okay, so the weather's the chaos of it all. Right? High pressure to low pressure, entropy example. Okay. But of course it's all going to be ordered. What's he babbling about?
But aren't there regions where the air pressure is always low? Why, that's right, at high altitude.
What was producing all the gas that's there? Is it the snow that's producing all of the oxygen? Is that what's doing it? No? What about all of the vegetation? Is it all the algae that's making all of the oxygen? What about the trees? Is it them making all the oxygen that this dude's breathing? Is that what it is? What's producing it all? Oh, nothing. Oh, right. How did it all get there then? How has he still got that yummy, yummy air going into his lungs? Oh, that's because it went up. So the high concentration of gas that was produced at ground level would obviously be in a higher concentration at the point of production. But then as it disperses up, defying gravity, it reaches and makes its way to the top of Everest. Obviously, there's not very much producing it there, so it's going to be less as it dissipates. But in order to be at pressure, it would have to be within containment to begin with, because otherwise the gas would have come out of the ground and immediately dissipated into the sky vacuum. So it comes out at high velocity and then goes into space, never to return. So we'd never have gas pressure. But yet we have got a pressure that's easily breathable at the highest of altitudes that we can actually stand on. I wonder why that is. It's because gas expands to fill volumes. Yeah, there's less where it's not being produced. It gets thinner. Shocking, innit? Entropy. It's expanding out and dispersing, and then cycling back down again in the case of the water cycle, causing a dynamic system. But all of these things require containment to have gas pressure in the first place. Like I say, if any of the gas came out of the ground and the sky was a vacuum, then the ground level would be a vacuum, wouldn't it? The very first gas particle to be produced would have left the ground and immediately be presented with a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum. So what does it do? Does it go up to an arbitrary point called the Kármán line and just stay there, waiting for other gases to join it so we can all breathe it when it forms a sphere? Is that what gas does? No. Gas would come out of the ground, travel in a high velocity through the 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum that it was immediately presented with at ground level, and it would never return. We'd never achieve gas pressure. Shout out to Original D-Rose for the super chat. He says, gravity gullible guppies, cognitive dissonance. Indeedy. How long we've been going live? I said at the beginning of the show I thought the computer would fall over. I was testing like crazy because it was falling over right up until the point I started the live show. Why it's not now? We've got 110 people watching. Please share the show. Gone over a little bit live, but we will carry on. It's not much, a couple of minutes left on this video.
Air pressure depends on altitude. The air pressure decreases by about 13% when the altitude increases by 1 kilometer. That's why your ears pop when you fly. I've never heard of a flurf who denies this, so what we find is that they say pressure requires a container and pressure is higher near the ground, even though there is no container separating the gas down here from the...
No separating container? So you think if I put a pressure sensor over a valve that's got a leak, that's got gas going through it, but there's a pipe, it's got a leak, and I stick a pressure meter over it, you're telling me that where the gas is being produced and introduced into my general environment, that's got to have the same pressure. Oh no, it must be contained for me to measure it at a high pressure. No, you can introduce a high pressure gas into an existing gas pressure and have the introduction of gas being at a considerably high pressure than the pressure around it, for it to dissipate and work its way into it. But according to you, flurfs say that we've got a higher pressure at the ground, where all the gas is being produced. But there isn't a separate container there, so how is that achieved? Just introduce a higher pressure into a lower one. That's the entropic effect, like with the wind, you stupid numpty. Yeah, what is that? That can't be possible. We can't have wind. How can we have wind? There isn't a container for the higher pressure. You stupid dick. What kind of numpty are you? You've talked about wind. Do you think that in order to have wind, one of the higher pressures must be self-contained? What a stupid idiot.
Gas at higher altitude. As expected, they can't describe what we observe with an internally consistent model.
Right, so you're saying we must have a separate container for the higher pressure of wind, based on that example? That's pretty stupid.
While we can safely approximate gas in a small container or even in a room as an ideal gas, there's no...
Oh, I see. So with the differences in pressure, you wouldn't be giving it as a description of one gas when simplifying it as an ideal gas. So therefore, in this example on screen now, it must be an ideal gas in this model that I'm not claiming. So therefore, it must be evenly distributed and it's not, therefore it fails. Oh, we got there in the end, didn't we, Martymer? Yeah, we followed along until we pulled it apart. It was fun! And now I'll let my audience know as I gloat because I pulled apart every shitty little part of your claim that you're making by pulling apart the straw man of how ideal gas behaves to assert that if it's not all equal, we must have separate containment for the higher pressure. Therefore, to have wind on a flurf model, you've got to have lots of containers for all the different pressures for it to be like ideal gases. No, my friend, you're working outside of the convention to debunk the simplification that describes, simplistically, how one gas will work. In general terms, not how flurf models that I haven't claimed work and therefore must have even distributed pressure. No, my friend, we can still have dynamic systems in this contained system that we aren't claiming and you're strawmanning us with, but there must be containment for those dynamic systems to take place. Not for an ideal gas law description within an isolated system, because that's merely a description. An oversimplification in this instance, because this would be a dynamic system, and we definitely wouldn't have a constantly even distribution of gas particles. Oh no, sir, that's not reality. That's you misunderstanding the ideal gas description. Oh dear. Now why don't you go away, have yourself a glass of milk and a cookie, and not worry your precious little head about complex things like the second law of thermodynamics? Yeah, because you seem to be implying that oversimplification should apply to the world that we live in. No, it describes how gas behaves always within the world that we live in, but it isn't then take-outable from the convention for you to debunk it as how a world must conform to that ideal gas description. Wrong. These things are obviously too complex for you. You need to be having a little glass of milk and a cookie and getting yourself off to bed, sunshine. Don't you? Bless. Ruffles his hair, sends him on his way. Piss off, you little sod.
Way we can approximate the entire atmosphere as
No, you wouldn't, because we've got a dynamic system, just covered it.
one and expect to get things right.
No, that's how you expect your contrast with an ideal gas description to simply describe how a gas would work. For how every gas must work in a dynamic system when on a flat Earth straw man.
For those of us who care about reality, that isn't a problem.
What, when you say that the description of something that is specifically described within the convention as not being real, ideal gas is qualified as not being something that actually exists within the convention to explain how gases behave. But you're going to say that's not how they behave because that's not how I've debunked this oversimplification within a model. Pathetic.
Gas particles in a gravitational...
Maybe you're a subscriber to Mortimer and you didn't keep up when he went through this and went, "Way, go on, Mortimer, you did really well debunking them flurfs." Well, if you were one of those clowns, you probably won't want to go to the link that I've just posted in the live stream chat and let him know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, followed along with every strawman nonsensical bullshit that you put out, and pulled it apart at base level as you did it. Yeah, you probably won't want to hear that because you probably thought he did really well.
Field will bounce around due to thermal motion, just like in an ideal gas, but
just like in an ideal gas that we're not actually experiencing, it's just used as an oversimplification to describe how gases work. It isn't arbitrarily then unilaterally applicable to a flat earth straw man that you're saying we claim when we don't.
There will be a slight acceleration in the direction of the field, resulting in a greater probability of finding particles further down in...
Oh, really? So you're going to show us with P's? Why not show us with gas? You see, it seems now that we're now describing P behaviour as opposed to gas behaviour. You've got that chronic illness that people like Thunderfoot had, where they suddenly think that bouncy balls are gas. You think that peas are gas. Now, these are peas, you stupid moron. Yeah, a bit like your brain. This is your brain, a pea. It's about the same size if you think that this is gas. And that peas go down, go boom, boom, because they're displacing the air around them, is the same as gas go down, go boom, boom, like peas in air. Now, these are solids, you stupid idiot. Solids behave fundamentally different to gas. Now, what, because you've taken apart ideal gas when transposed onto all gases in dynamic systems for straw men that flat earthers aren't claiming here, that means that suddenly you can use peas as gases? Peas aren't gases, you stupid clown. Gases are gases.
In the field. This is perfectly consistent with what we observe. A source...
Is this what we observe? Well, spiralling motion in a sky vacuum, something I see every day? No, my friend, that was very ham-handed. Yeah? Saying we see peas go down, go boom, boom, just like we see in my CGI rendering of a sphere Earth in a sky vacuum violating this natural law. No, we don't see this every day. We don't see this ever. We've only ever seen it based on this CGI, and that's the only way you've ever seen it.
Force of gravity in space tends to collect and retain gas.
No, it bends geodesics in fourth dimensions. Do you not even know what gravity is? This numpty disseminating this crap to his audience, Martymer, doesn't even know what gravity is. It bends fourth dimensions. That's what it does, my friend.
Planets, in particular, have atmospheres.
Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, they all have that begging the question. Second law of thermodynamics violation. Dynamic systems within sphere-shaped air. So the dynamic systems wouldn't also have the laws and descriptions within entropic law, specifically, applicable to them. Oh, it's okay for them. They can be arbitrarily sphere-shaped and not filling sky vacuums. No containment needed. Where was that description? Where was that overcome of this problem? I just cut to the CGI and say atmosphere again. Did you think that atmosphere was going to get you by? Oh, well, sphere-shaped air, obviously.
Which are more dense near the surface.
Really? So, literally what I just said then, you're going to have the dynamic system described not expanding into the vacuum. So the gas can go up to the thin levels of the top of a mountain, like Everest, but ultimately it's not going to carry on any further. It just kind of hangs around there, burns its bra in defiance of natural law, and sort of hovers around at the Kármán line. Just says, I'm not going nowhere, why would I bother? You know, just going to eat cakes, fall back down, go boom boom. Pee is not gas. A fart, however, ha ha ha, says James Richard. Thanks for the super chat, really appreciate the support.
And decrease in density exponentially with altitude until it becomes negligible.
What, you mean dissipates into the area of volume it has? Dissipation would mean that we wouldn't have any gas. The high pressure would immediately disperse into the sky vacuum, but you're going to say, because it's sphere-shaped, goes up to the top, gets thinner and thinner, and then we've still got pressure below without any containment. That's a violation of natural law, my friend. That's the second law of thermodynamics violation. Entropy law. Gas disperses into spaces. All your examples had containment to stop that happening. Because otherwise it would have gone into whatever volume it had beyond the containment within the examples you gave. Like when using natural law, when using gas law, when using ideal gas, it all had containment, mate. But you're now going to say, no containment needed here, sphere-shaped air. It's not going to fly, my friend.
You don't need a container to have gas pressure.
Oh, right. So it literally was just sphere-shaped air, don't need container. Well, that's wonderful. I assume air arbitrarily takes the shape of a sphere. I use this word to imply it without saying it. Atmosphere, atmo being air, sphere being a sphere-shaped. Then I say all of the natural laws that describe gas behaviour. can be debunked because I can apply a convention used within to all gases in a flat Earth model. Therefore, natural law doesn't apply. Therefore, sphere-shaped air. Therefore, no container. All right. What we would need, my friend, is a demonstration beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that gas just isn't filling vacuums. Because that's all you're offering. Atmosphere is your actual offering for why this natural law doesn't apply in CGI. Because it's not the world. You're not showing us the world.
You need a force acting on the gas.
Where did you show that in any of the examples that had containment? None of them had a force acting on them. They all had containment. Meanwhile, things aren't going down with a force of a bent geodesic in space-time, my friend. Some things go up. Just saying buoyancy, inferring that gas go down, go boom, boom. Again, you didn't say it, I did. Because I know your rhetoric better than you. You just said buoyancy. Oh, right, so the gases around the helium go down to force the helium up. No, they don't. They're all produced at ground level. You also disseminated that. They're all dispersing upwards and getting thinner as they do so. But in order to be at pressure ever, they'd need to be contained. Otherwise, they'd just fill the volume. Like in the V bit that you had. Yeah? Well, that volume is what you need to have gas pressure. You haven't got it. What you have is a natural law violation, and that is all.
Now, that force could come from a container, but it could also come...
Could come from a container. It's not a force. The force is the pressure of the gas. The force is the walls of the container being there for the gas to press on and create the force of pressure. No. Container isn't a force, you stupid numpty. The force of container. What an idiot. You don't have an alternative force in the form of gravity when it's bent pseudo-Riemannian force space-time either. A pseudo-fourth dimension isn't going to give rise to any force. Quote, George Musa. Gravity is not a force. End quote. Or about Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. But you think that appealing to a bent geodesic in space-time, in a pseudo-geometry, will give rise to the container force? No, mate, you just need a container. Assuming sphere-shaped air is not going to cut it. Another shout-out to James Richards. There is no real gas on any globe model, because the gas law would not be applicable to such nonsense. That's absolutely true. Quote from Rumpus. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth. End quote. In reference to his model of a sphere Earth in a sky vacuum with gas not filling it. Because if the second law of thermodynamics applied to this globe Earth in a sky vacuum, then gas would fill the space in line with that entropic law. Ergo, the second law simply doesn't apply to the globe model. Because it can't. Gas would fill space. It's just that simple. Thanks again for the super chat, James Richards. You've been really supportive today. I don't know why I deserve this much support. Although I do put a lot of work in, I can't be honest. Thank you for the super chat, though. 118 people watching. Wow. Decent sized audience for a change.
From something else. In particular, the force keeping the atmosphere stuck to the Earth.
The force? There is no force. Gravity is not a force, end quote, George Moser. There isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote, Professor Brian Cox. So what are you talking about? Why are you appealing to atmosphere again? So all you've got is, we've got sphere-shaped air, and we've got it because of gravity. That's it. That's your claim. Crap.
Is... gravity! See ya.
Is that it? That's as good as you've got. Atmosphere and gravity. Oxymoron. And non-force force that you can think of as a force that isn't really a force because it's a bent fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian space-time geodesic bent as a result of the uneven distribution of mass in a mathematical convention described by Einstein that's been debunked by quantum mechanics. So because of all of the above, sphere-shaped air. Therefore, no container needed. That's his crappy argument. Useless. Be gone. That was it.
No, that's not it. Keep playing it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's losing it.
Okie dokie.
What an ending.
They popped a balloon.
Well, he just debunked gravity with that balloon, because why didn't all the gas in the balloon sink to the bottom of the balloon? Instead, it spread out evenly along the balloon. So he just debunked himself again.
Yeah, it's bullshitsu of the highest order. I mean, but he tried to be clever. He tried to say gas go down, go boom boom with buoyancy to make helium go up. He didn't say it. He just inferred it.
This
It's
is
useless.
actually a great show because as I was working, the guy, that new kid that I was working with, asked me what I was listening to. So I told him we discussed nature of our reality, and we got into what we were discussing. And right away, he goes, "Oh no, the gases are held down by a gravitational force." So, yeah, there's a lot of explaining to do.
With that, I'm going to say stay tuned, even if you're watching live, because we're going to do an after show now, even though we're going to stay live. So I'm going to ask one of the moderators to move all of the Discord server to the after show. And I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of them for making today's live show possible. Stay tuned for the after show, which will, strictly speaking, still be live. Of course, a massive thank you to today's G+ panels and everybody for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. You can continue to share if you wish to do so. I'm not going to play an outro. I'm just going to do the music myself. Dun, 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 dun. Right, pretend we've just had an outro and we're not live anymore. And I'm going to just stress the computer.
Did you not hear us trying to talk?
Yeah, Nathan, what's up with that?
Refracted curvature was trying to get in. I was trying to say something, and you were like deaf.
I was like on a mission to get through it in an hour and a half of live show. Sorry, guys. I mean, you go ahead. This is your moment. I won't be saying anything.
I don't know if Refract is here.
I was going to give the conclusion, and therefore gas doesn't fill space.
Yeah, show a load of containers, show how containment's needed, show formulas that have got volume in them, and therefore gas won't fill space.
Yeah, it's nutty as a fruit bat's droppings. You know what I mean?
Another shout out to James Richard. This guy doesn't even know what Newton himself says about gravity. Right on, he doesn't know any of his own rhetoric. He's got parts that he's hyper-focused on to the point where he can allude to gas go down, go boom, boom without actually saying it. So he obviously knows the pitfalls of how he can disseminate some of his arguments, James Richard. Thank you for the super chat.
So, Nathan, what's causing the gases to move in the first place? Because I think that's what Dell is saying, that without the upward rising Earth, nothing would have any movement because there would be no force exerted on anything. So I'm trying to understand that.
Gas doesn't move because of forces.
You think without an Earth moving up, we'd have totally static everything? Okay. Outrageous claims that are asking us to undo something that is said to have happened if it wasn't for the presupposition of their claim. This is it's the same exact idea as when a globe believer says, if it wasn't for gravity, we'd all be flying out of our chairs. So the normality is that we do have gravity. So what Dell is saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, if it wasn't for Earth moving up, all of the gas would stop moving. All right. So your outrageous claim backed by another outrageous claim that would only take place if it wasn't for your outrageous claim not happening. Very clever, Dell. About as clever as that Mortimer guy.
If it wasn't for invisible unicorn farts in the sky, we would all be flying out of our chairs.
Precisely. Dell, we wouldn't have any movement of any... We wouldn't have phase changes if it wasn't for unicorns. You know, if phase change, then unicorns. So what are you going to do, Dell? You're going to undo my claim that's absolutely outrageous because, look, you're not going to be able to show phase change not happening, are you? The norm is phase change. The norm is gases moving everywhere. But if it wasn't for unicorns, we wouldn't have phase changes. If it wasn't for Earth rising up, we wouldn't have movement of gas. You're trying to transpose your extraordinary claim that Earth's moving up onto something else that wouldn't be happening, but for the fact of Earth moving up. Just useless, shitty tactics, Dell. You've disseminated to the level of a crappy baller with crappy argumentation.
I don't understand what would have been causing the gas to move when he didn't think Earth was moving. What was causing the gas to move then?
Not the elastic collisions.
Who cares?
Obviously not.
No. It's a segue to get you to argue about whether or not something that's already taking place would cease to be but for his outrageous claim. Pathetic.
He's asking, what's the cause of entropy?
Yes.
Good luck, Dale.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's asking. Glad someone got to the root of this. I did mean to drop it in at some point, but I got too annoyed with his tactics. He's asking what causes entropy. What's the start of it all? All right, Del, look into the ontological primitives and you'll have your answer.
You're roboting, Neil. Drop and rejoin. That black and white video that I put out in the pre-show where he's talking about entropy only, that's a good one at this point. Again.
Well, like the inverse square law, I've never heard anybody ask what the cause of the inverse square law is. I mean, it seems nonsensical when you even ask it, right? Just a description of what happens always. But when it comes to entropy,
Why is it happening always? And the other thing is, hold on, he says, if that was the case, if Earth wasn't rising upward, then why is the air bubble at the top of his demonstration not moving down?
because he has a downward bias, therefore the bubble rises up, is what he, are you kidding me?
I'm dead serious. He wants to know why the air bubble in this apparatus that he constructed not moving down.
Well, isn't his whole claim is that everything accelerates to the ground or everything falls to the ground? That's his problem.
Yeah, that's his problem. He's trying to make his problem of something going up in an always ever rising up Earth be explainable. It's like me when I did the reverse. All right, why are the clouds up there? Oh, because Earth's falling constantly. I mean, if it wasn't for Earth falling, we'd be in perpetual fog. Prove that we wouldn't be in fog. It's just absurd.
But isn't the air bubble in there? Doesn't air go up anyway? Like, is he saying gas is supposed to go down and go boom, boom?
Moves in all directions.
Who cares? He's got an extraordinary claim that Earth's rising up. Yeah, get on with proving that. Don't ask me questions about what wouldn't be based on your extraordinary claim. I couldn't give a crap. Get on with it. Prove that it's the case. Your extraordinary claim needs validating. If you've got nothing beyond asking me questions about what bottles do when you throw them out of windows, I'm not interested. I've got better things to do. Prove your extraordinary claim. If that's your evidence, get nay fuck. You're dumb.
Yeah, he thinks his apparatus and his demonstration is proof. And we're ignorant and we're just hand waving it and we're not dealing with the issue.
So humour him. Okay, Del, that's nice. Earth moving up, you say? Lovely. Thank you for letting us know. We really appreciate you letting us know and getting involved, Sunshine. It's good to have you as part of this discussion. Good lad. You keep up the good work, mate. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Del. Is that what that's what you need to do? You're a good lad, Del. You're doing good work. We really appreciate your efforts, mate. You keep up the good work with your upward rising Earth.
Maybe next time he can explain to us the cause of the inverse square law, too. Why don't he just go ahead and get started on that one? That one could be the sideways moving Earth next, right?
Hey, Nathan, just
Yes.
to get off the topic for just a few seconds, would you mind if I shared a Give Send Go link in your chat? Or if you could, I've reached another rough patch, and as much as I don't want to do it, I've set up another Give Send Go. If anybody can help me out with that, that'd be greatly appreciated, even if it's just like speaking some words into the universe, if that's cool.
Yeah, stick a link in.
All right. I've I shared it in Skype. I don't know if you want me to put it in again. I don't know how you want me to do that.
Talker, did you reach out to Paul?
Don't ask me to do it. Just get one of the mods to do it. Somebody who's got a mod status, can you put Chocolate's link in the live stream chat for me, please? Also, shout out to James Richards. Thank you for the super chat. It says, hypothetical question. If Neil deGrasse Tyson came on the show, would you try to be nice or go for the jugular? I think by the way you phrased your question, you know the answer to that.
It's only in my dream. But I can still dream. By the way, he's never answered any of my emails about it, getting a curved elevation angle from a curved baseline.
I think the way we would treat him would be no different to anybody else who came here. So initially, you just go by how his attitude was towards us. So in other words, if he didn't rumpus us, try and talk like he did with Joe Rogan when he was asking about other astrophysicists talking about gravity, and he just started talking through him, yeah, that's going to piss us off, isn't it? Right? We don't have any tolerance for that. We won't cuck for Neil deGrasse Tyson in the same way that Joe Rogan did. Okay. So that means there's got to be a level of mutual respect between the two parties for the discussion to take place at all. Because likewise, if I start being derogatory to Neil deGrasse Tyson or unreasonable in my discussion with him, then he's got every right to get stroppy with me, right? So in other words, just from the offset, based on that hypothetical scenario, there'd have to be some form of mutual respect between us for the discussion to take place. Or, to put it another way, for Tyson to lose badly.
Yeah, he wouldn't get away with the stuff he gets away with when he talks to those characters.
I think at first he'd probably feel like he was in the wrong place, because I think we'd be so elated that he was here. And we got to talk to him, then he'd be like, "Am I in the right place?" Until we started getting into the shit. Then it'll change.
I agree.
Have you forgotten that he's already stated he will never debate a flat earther?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. He's a flat earther and he doesn't know it, so he would never debate anyone. Because heliocentrism is a flat earth religion.
Yeah, but you got to admit it's a smart move by him. Very smart move.
Have you ever seen Neil deGrasse Tyson debate anyone?
No, I only seen him mesmerizing people with his little magic tricks and sleight of hand and sleight of words.
Yeah, he doesn't debate anyone, let alone.
He sits on a panel of other astrophysicists and chews the fat.
But in all fairness, if he came here, authority is based on truth, or true authority is based on truth. We're actually higher in the hierarchy than him, so he should have to cocktail to us.
I agree with that. We have the upper hand. How does that go in that movie, Seven? John Doe has the upper hand. Flat earthers have the upper hand. What's in the box? You ball earth. You cut it off.
Well, we can explain to him where his religion comes from. He can't explain it to us.
Yeah. Hey, you would see Neil deGrasse running like Morgan Freeman. John Doe has the upper hand.
Yeah, I think it would be exactly as Chocolate's described, where we'd all be pretty elated that he'd even joined, and he wouldn't understand why. He'd be like, aren't you all going to be super aggressive towards me? And we're like, without saying it, we would all understand immediately that no, because what's going to happen can only be of detriment to you. Now, us knowing that is, the reason why we'd be so elated to have him here. But it's also simultaneously the same reason why he wouldn't come and has stated publicly that he would never debate a flat earther. Because if he did, it would be devastating, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because your personality might be more charismatic.
Meanwhile, he's the one with that.
No, he's just projecting. He's the one that works on all that stuff. But we go where the evidence leads us, and he wants to say, well, I could have all the facts and objective reality on my side, and I could lose because they're more charismatic. What? You have objective
But meanwhile,
reality.
we have all the reality on our side, right?
Well, now, in all fairness, I've seen that happen. Like people get drowned out because the other person is more charismatic and overtalks the other person. So
that's just lousy moderating. Like when you went with Ruhif and McToon, it was obvious what they were doing, and so they jumped all over you. They agreed to the original terms of the debate, and you gave them everything. And so if someone was watching that, they would see what was happening. So it all depends how it's being moderated.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if someone was watching that and thought that they won, I feel bad for them. They have no competent faculty of thought anyway. But the whole point is that it seems to me that people that have the least to say speak the most, and people listen to confidence, not intelligence.
Remember the debate Nathan did with the other guy, with the two guys? What was those guys' names?
I mean, Earth Chronicles or whatever they were called.
Yeah. So you just have to watch that debate, and Nathan brought in the hammer, so to speak, of stopping fallacious reasoning every time it came up, and they couldn't handle it. They got mad, and then it's kind of lost a little bit because of the anger, and then it came back to a debate again. But it's like, I'm not going to let you get away with a fallacious argument. I'm going to call it out. We're not going to sit here for 2 hours, go to Narnia, and then after 2 hours, oh yeah, I made that up. No, you're going to talk long if you have proof, but you're not going to talk at all if it's fallacious reasoning. And that's what Nathan did. And it was fun to see those guys not get it at all and then dismantle. And then that Navy guy, or whoever he was all over the place. He didn't know about the sextant or anything. And then the other guy brought in the equatorial Mount telescope. He didn't have a clue. He says it works on 2 axis points. No, it has 4. And so he has no, and just the name, equatorial plane. I mean, it's the plane. You're using a flat plane for everything. They just don't get it.
We'll just disagree to disagree.
Agreeably.
I agree that you disagree, but we'll agree to that.
Sounds agreeable.
I like the fact that QE, who speaks fluent numpty, interpreted what the best shape of that whole discussion. So Patrick asks him, is there any evidence you can have a sphere-shaped air around a ball Earth in a sky vacuum? Or something like that, along with the, how can you have gas pressure without a container? That's the context of the discussion. And his answer was air. That was his answer. Okay, well, after the fact, QE says no. What he's saying is, I appeal to the being a sky vacuum by just pointing at the sky, which is a vacuum, and we do have air here. So in other words, one word, air, contextualized with a question from Patrick, was unpacked by Quantum Eraser as being, no, that's him pointing at his sky vacuum and saying, I assume the sky is a vacuum. One word, pure numpty, Quantum Eraser, ladies and gentlemen.
So he assumes it's a sky vacuum, but the words out of his mouth was air.
Yeah, he's saying because the question was, how can we have gas pressure without a container? He's saying, well, air. That's the example.
Shoo.
No, it's not. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not as dull as that.
Okay.
It honestly isn't. Now that once it was unpacked, because I was like, that's the stupidest answer ever, and that was the reaction he got from Patrick at the time. And it was worthy of a shorts clip, which has done very well, I might add, because it's so stupid when you just hear it, how it's said. But in reality, he's speaking numpty, and he's saying, I assume that we've got air And we've still got a sky vacuum, so therefore my example of how we can have gas pressure without a container is the air we're breathing. That proves we've got gas pressure without a container. Obviously, air proves it. That's what he's saying.
So he will look at his car tires on the way home, and he assumes he's got air, gas pressure in the tires, because the tires don't have tires. I mean, the rim doesn't have tires, so the air's right. It's just, your mind goes crazy with these people.
I thought Rumpus did the best, as the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. That was probably the best one.
Then when he
And
repeated
this last guy said
that
PVP
thing,
NRT doesn't apply.
when we repeated that thing, he's like, I didn't say that. Where you got me saying that? Rumpus.
Well, that's what they have to do. They have to violate every natural law for their spinning pressurized globe right next to a vacuum. And they have to violate every reasonable, logical argument for it and say stupid things.
But they think they've formulated a reasonable response there. Yeah. If to demonstrate that you can have gas pressure without a container, yeah, you'd have to be able to breathe air. We do breathe air, therefore you can have gas pressure without a container. Look up. But it actually is reasonable to them because of the concreteness of the ball to them. So they're appealing to their belief in the ball and the way it works. And there you go. It's proof. Look, it's proof it works because I can breathe.
That's still dumb as a bag of hammers.
It's interesting that he's gone to air as opposed to gas pressure. So he's not actually linked it to anything in physics. He just made a religious statement, air. Because obviously if you say gas pressure, that creates a problem. You can follow that logically and it destroys it. But if you just state air, because I'm on a ball Earth, then it stays within your paradigm.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Right, but that's the whole point. I'm on a ball Earth with gas pressure next to a vacuum, air, so everything's hunky-dory. And then when you say, yeah, but can you demonstrate gas pressure next to a vacuum, or does it need to be contained to be gas
It
pressure?
isn't contained. I'm breathing.
No, I know. It's getting him to that next level of questioning the premise, which is I'm on the ball next to a vacuum, I'm breathing. So yeah, that's true. Now you want to get to the premise. What makes you think you're on the ball next to a vacuum?
I just posted that
you
in
can breathe.
Master if anybody wants to hear it.
No, that is their point, Temph. I'm not taking the piss. That is their support. Of course it is. That's the proof. I've confirmed it by the fact that I can breathe.
No, I know what you're saying. Is then discussion is over then at this point.
The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
Well, we have you on record saying that. It's just.
Where have you got me on record saying that entropy doesn't apply to the Earth? I'd never say such a thing. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
I would never say such a thing.
Yeah, he's just an outright liar. There's a good reason why. I mean, that wasn't the first example of him doing things like that, just outright lying about things that he said. There's a reason I didn't want him here, because he's more than content to lie. He knows when he's claiming geometric horizons and claiming there's physical Earth curve obstructions, only to then say, we don't have a geometric horizon, it only exists in the maths. It's like, well, what were you claiming at the Isle of Man? Oh, we were probably looking at the geometric horizon then. That was his response. You're like, get lost.
I like the one where he was trying to make a distinction between laws of nature and natural law.
Yep.
Exactly. That was beautiful.
Yeah. These laws of nature don't apply to his sphere Earth model. And when they don't apply and we point it out, he says, well, they don't apply to the model. That's what he does. So you're like, okay, Well, when you're claiming that the model's working and is a complete model of Earth and we've never even seen it, but yet the second law doesn't apply to it, how can it be describing anything in nature if a law of nature simply doesn't apply to it?
Yeah, I don't think he understood what he was saying.
That's a terrible response to say what he said, because we're on Earth, and he's saying the laws of nature don't apply to the Earth we're on, so he loses immediately.
Well, then he tried to say that the laws of nature that don't apply to the Earth are not natural laws. That was a good one.
Well, it seems that at some point that the second law of thermodynamics became their enemy, because if you have to deny it, I mean, you might want to go talk to Eddington, who said if your idea goes against second law of thermodynamics, I have no hope for you. So what was he talking about? Something that doesn't apply to where he lives?
Well,
what are you talking about?
The geometric horizon became their enemy, so they hid it. No one could see it.
Yep, buried it 6 feet deep.
Below water
Dead.
level.
We've never seen it because we have an atmosphere. Oh, really? We've never seen the thing that you said was blocking boats and buildings in the distance for years and years. You've made fun of us because we don't believe it. Now we've got a statement for you to respond to, and your response is, we've never seen this thing. It's not possible to see it because we have an atmosphere? What the hell do you think we've been looking through?
But
Even though
chocolate, you can't.
atmospheres are freaking... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You can't see it, chocolate, but it blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings.
Below sea level.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, below sea level.
Yeah, it's refracted below sea level. It exists below sea level. Like, why won't you just give them that there's this other world below sea level that they think they live on?
I would, but
I mean, it's not hard to think when these people also think simultaneously that other people and places and things exist antipodal to them underneath their feet by thousands of feet. So it's a hell of an imagination.
They've got sextants in hell. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they don't believe that they're thousands of feet away from them. They think they're on a flat plane opposed to them. Like, there's no ball there when they try to describe it. It's just a flat plane that's directly underneath them.
Hey, you should have seen the shock look on that kid's face when I told him Earth is flat. His eyes almost fell out of his head.
How to make friends and influence people? Neil, is that your attempt here?
No, I was working side by side with him. We're holding a ladder, so he just asked what I was listening to.
Hang on, he's on a ladder. You're holding it.
No. You're not listening to me. Now listening to me. Me and him are holding a ladder while somebody's up the ladder. One of them, A ladders.
Even worse.
We're holding a ladder, and I'm talking to him, but he started to understand because he understands refrigerants and gases because he works with them.
Neil, next time you're holding a ladder with another guy and someone's life is at stake, don't bring up flat Earth, please.
I didn't hear any of that. So much traffic in New York, man. It's so different than Alabama.
I think that might be the best time to do it, Tenth. The dude couldn't run away then.
No, everything was making sense to him as I talked to him. I explained the gravity thing to him. I explained which one. I explained Newton's gravity. Then I explained the bending of space-time gravity, and none of them are real. It's just a word.
Did you ask a question?
What's that?
Did you ask him any questions?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Did I ask him any questions? I don't know. I don't think so. I was just explaining stuff to him. I sent him a link for the show, and then I actually, the show that we just had was great for him. So I just shared the show with him. So he'll listen to it later.
Is it important for you to know what gravity is and how they lie to us? Full stop. Wait for answer.
Oh no, that's too hard. Because you know why? Because my brother's lurking around, and as soon as he hears me saying something, what? Flip that show off. You're working. So I gotta be, I gotta be crafty.
But you were talking to him all the time about this subject, and your brother wasn't lurking around.
And I do it differently. He asked me what I was listening to. That's my open door. I explained I'm listening to a show where I'm involved, and I'm on a panel where we discuss the nature of reality.
Fun
And it
having that
went from there.
conversation, isn't it?
What?
Like, it's fun having that conversation with coworkers.
Oh yeah. But as it went on, he was really like, yeah. I said nothing's been proven. Gravity's not been proven. And I started explaining science to him because he asked, "What about the science?" I said, "Well, what is science?" And we went from there. Same thing we do here.
Okay, so this conversation is going to continue in a members-only live stream, but with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live and after show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you do happen to be watching this live and you are a member, there is a link scrolling its way by for the members only live stream, which will take place in about 10 to 15 minutes time once I've got that all set up. But I will rejoin the G+ and Discord panel so you can enjoy their dulcet tones in that members only live stream. Once again, another massive thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!